2019. What are you seeing?
Well, yes, I want to agree with you. As a matter of fact, I kept saying that, me going around the country, canvassing the constituencies before the polls yesterday, the energy that I got on the ground, I expected the local to turn out. Coupled with that, the official opposition parties basically boycotting yesterday's sham election, they call it, and adding to that as well, the support for the Dominica Labour Party, it keeps dwindling election after election, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Let's take a closer look, Loftus. They got 23,000 voters in 2019. That's the Dominica Labour Party. Yesterday they amassed 19,000 voters. Significant reduction there. What are some of the factors you think which are leading to a reduction in the numbers that they're attracting at the polls?
Is that in terms of the reduction, is that primarily we keep saying and seeing in Dominica that the importation of voters from overseas, that forms a formidable base for the rigging legacy of Roosevelt Skerrit and the Dominica Labour Party. And this time around, we did not see those numbers coming in on chartered flights, on chartered boats. So basically, right there, it is the proof in the pudding, as it were, that what we have been seeing on the ground for some time now, that the overseas vote basically keeps that machinery of the Dominica Labour Party afloat. Also, coupled with that, as I said before, there's a massive swing against the Dominica Labour Party Dominica. Matter of fact, some persons are basically saying that they are not in support of one party holding the reins of power so long in Dominica. And I'm talking about now persons who were once supporters of the Dominica Labour Party. They are saying that openly. They are saying that they are also saying that in private.
Yeah. Let's pluck out the results now, Loftus, from three constituencies which were of interest heading into yesterday. They were previously held by United Workers' Party Member of Parliament. Let's start off in Salisbury. Interesting turn of developments there. You would have expected with the incumbent boycotting the swing to possibly go with the governing party, but that did not unfold.
No, and based on predictions on the ground, again, me going around that constituency, and Salisbury constituency to be precise, from day one, when the snap election was announced by Roosevelt Skerrit, lots of persons from that constituency said in very categorical terms that they will not roll over and be dead, even if the party that they normally supported historically, that is the United Workers' Party, chose to boycott this time around. But the constituents themselves, they came together, they pooled their resources together and said, no way, no form that the Dominica Labour Party is going to walk away with that seat. And so they came up with an independent candidate in the name of Ms. Jesma Paul. She put up her hand and said, yes, I am willing to go through the fire, as it were, to face the Dominica Labour Party square on, and yes, she was victorious indeed.
She was.
Adding to that, based on the sentiments that I got on the ground, is that there's a wound that has not been healed where that constituency in particular is concerned, in that in 2019, on the eve of the 2019 election, that constituency basically went through a lot of tear gas, a lot of live rounds in terms of bullets from the RSS and troops in Dominica. And so that constituency, they basically said, without an apology, without compensation, that wound is still wide open. And so the Dominica Labour Party will not have that seat going their way.
Yeah, and we got that vibe as well on the ground in Salisbury, and it resonated throughout Loftus, different demographics of the community. Yeah, the young people saying the same thing as opposed to the senior folk and middle age as well. They all think that they deserve some sort of apology. Ms. Paul is the new power up. What do you anticipate will be the next 5 years for Salisbury under the governance of the Dominica Labour Party?
Well, what I'm expecting is that it is the same old, in that from time immemorial, that Salisbury constituency, it was never supported, or it should have been supported by the Dominica Labour Party, because again, as I said before, the people of that constituency are very resolute, they are very resilient people, and they have not been voting, they have not been supporting the policies and ideologies of the Dominica Labour Party. Hence, the Dominica Labour Party choose to use the old political trick in the book by not giving these constituents what is really due to them in terms of overall governance of the country. So I am not expecting anything more in terms of that new candidate.
Yeah. I look forward to our engagement with her momentarily. In my regard, Mr. Loftus, were you satisfied with the performance of Mr. Anthony Charles? Not satisfied, but were you surprised with his performance?
Well, no, I was not surprised at all, because again, as I said before, I think we were 3 constituencies, and there were always 3 constituencies on my mind. Arab constituency, South constituency,
And you?
what is it? Kalinab.
The Kalinab.
Salisbury constituency. These 3 constituencies might have worked close, maritime, as unfortunately, some of the specific language got my expectations, and so I find out why.
Yeah.
That was for Mario. No surprise in that that constituency, people are again a solid base of people out there. A matter of fact, that is where the United Workers Party whose leadership came from in the name of Mr. James. And it's in that area, that general area of the country that the United Workers Party was built some years back. And so you have that strong base, those strong ties to the United Workers Party that is. And so I expected nothing less from the people from that constituency in again rejecting the Dominica Labour Party at the polls yesterday.
Yeah. Early on, and I'm agreed with you, Loftus, when we were looking at the Salisbury constituency,
Salisbury
constituency, the Kalinago territory, there was a great movement there. There was excitement on the ground yesterday, so the results somewhat a shocker for some independent observers. In Roseau North, we're also monitoring Roseau North. Miriam Blanchard is now the new member of Parliament. She now holds a seat which was occupied by the United Workers Party. How great of a loss is that seat for the UWP now, and what are the options for them to reclaim that seat?
Well, I think from day one, the United Workers Party choosing as a party to boycott the elections in their entirety, that would have been at least part of the consequence of the action, or the decision rather. So I am left to now wonder just how will we bounce back as a party now whenever these reforms are brought about, and can consolidate the forces to regain that Roseau North constituency. But again, it was no surprise that the Dominica Labour Party edged out the independent candidate there, because in my mind, the Dominica Labour Party, they have always been not the Roseau North's door as it were politically. So, based on everything on ground, I'm not surprised that this time much more force, much more organized force on the ground than the Dominica Labour Party could have done.
Excellent. Thanks for that assessment, Loftus. Let's talk some more domestic affairs now. Yesterday, I'm sure you were exposed to our viral voice note, which was making the rounds a voice which carried the name of your Prime Minister Roosevelt's career. Did you hear the voice note?
I did hear the voice note and I took note of it, yes.
Yes, okay. I ask you that question because on the heels of the close of the polls, your Prime Minister in the voice note was quoted as saying to Labour Party supporters to go out and vote, quote, "The independent candidates cannot do anything for you," unquote. In his address last evening when he was speaking to the Dominican people, he said that it's his intention now to meet the independent candidates and he's interested in supporting the mandate and the agenda. Interesting turn of events that you take.
Well, my brother, I'll tell you straight off, I'm hearing an echo. Are you there, man?
Loud and clear.
Okay, cool. I was just hearing, okay, yes. What I was telling you a while ago is that the utterances of Roosevelt's spirit, where I'm concerned, it is nothing new in terms of the different things and twists. This brother normally speaks with a forked tongue, and so on the campaign trail, it was, as you said it rightly, basically telling the population, what can an independent candidate do for you? A matter of fact, he called some of them very bad names. He basically, brought them down to the gutter, as it were. And so I am not surprised in terms of his turnaround now, having reality set in on him that these two independent candidates won their seat. We will now try to come around being politically deceptive and try to turn around now and get them to sort of cross the floor, go against their mandate from the people on the ground. But already I am hearing some of the constituents saying to these independent candidates, you need to come to speak to us if ever you're contemplating that move, and in no way we will support you to move across with all votes to the Dominica Labour Party. The voice note itself speaks to a man in terms of the fear that I heard coming from his voice yesterday. That too, it goes against the grain, it goes against the rules that govern our election here, because part of the rule says basically somebody contesting in the race should never, within that space, within the hours of the polls, be openly campaigning, advising persons who to vote for one against the other, and that is what Roosevelt Scary did yesterday. So again, it is a continued violation of our laws in Dominica. A matter of fact, just to add to that in terms of violations, there were some constituencies yesterday that had elections up and running, and they were paraphernalias of the Dominica Labour Party within that 100-yard mark of the polling station. And again, that should not have been, but with Dominica and the Dominica Labour Party, then anything goes in terms of breaking of the rules to suit their own political agenda.
Yeah, on the voice note, we're hearing that there are efforts afoot to mount a legal challenge, but it's first worth investigating the time that voice note was circulated, because if indeed it was circulated during the election hours, it is in breach of the election laws of the Commonwealth. Loftus, finally, what next for Dominica? Your Prime Minister has promised reforms for Easter. What next for the Commonwealth?
Well, the same reforms that Roosevelt promised for Easter. We in Dominica have heard those promises over and over again, and nothing in terms of their being implemented, they being able to work for the Dominican people. So to me, I am taking Roosevelt's carried words as hot air, in that he says what he wants to say at the time he says it to suit his own political interests, until and unless we can see Roosevelt's carried clearing the way and having the independent body, that is the Electoral Commission / Electoral Office, do their work in terms of picking up those recommendations from Byron and pushing them through Parliament, obviously with the help of the Parliament that Roosevelt Escarrot is in charge of. Unless and until I can see that take root, then Roosevelt Escarrot words to me will just be like hot air, going left, right, and center.
Loftus, I want to thank you for...
Absolutely no confidence in his words.
I want to thank you for coming on this morning, and we note that you have been consistent in advocating for reform, in being sort of that middleman, that independent voice for the voiceless here in Dominica. We'll continue to keep close contact with you to monitor what happens in the independent constituencies, Marigot and not Salisbury, but Salisbury. And we'll also monitor the appointment of the opposition leader and senators through your engagement. Thank you so much for all your service.
No problem. Yes, it was my pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity, sir.
You're most welcome. Loftus Durand, he's a journalist here on Dominica. He's also a political observer and a concerned citizen, friend of the show. Good morning, St. Lucia, joining us this hour. Next, we will have a conversation with the candidate from the Salisbury constituency. She won by some 200 plus votes. Jesma Paul, the new power rep for Salisbury, will be my very special guest next on the Flow WhatsApp platform. Good morning. Thanks for waking up with us. Continue to stay here. We are in Roseau, Dominica, but streaming to you live in St. Lucia. We'll be back in just a moment.